Today, we're going to talk about what I call the rise of Roush Racing, 1996 to 2004. A couple things that happened was number one, you got to hang out with Jack Roush at Barrett Jackson, which I bet that was cool. Was it cool catching up with him some?
Oh man, we had the best time. We got together 2 days. So we've spent a lot of time together, told a lot of great stories. Even Craig Jackson sat in and was amazed by some of the old stories that we were telling. It was such a good time.
That's so cool you guys got to catch up because I know it had been a while.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and the other thing that happened was Kenny had Jeff Burton on for a Kenny conversation. And the other thing was is at Kurt Busch's uh, Hall of Fame induction, he was interviewed and he mentioned in his interview that there was no place like early 2000s Roush Racing, and so just all those things happening together near the same time gave me the idea for this episode. So I wanted to kind of, before we dive into 1996 and the important things that happened that year, I wanted to kind of give the backstory and the background of Roush Racing as an organization. So, in NASCAR, that is. So, in 1988, that's the first full season of Roush Racing, and it was a single car team from 88 to 1991. And then they added the 16 team in 1992. But from 1988 to 1995, you earned 18 Cup wins and then 13 Bush wins when Roush owned it, starting in 1993 on to 1995. So, in other words, you captured every single Roush Racing win at that time. But with that said, obviously you, Steve Mill, and all the guys there in Liberty, you guys had put together a winning formula. What do you think Jack wanted to do? What was his intention on starting the third team, the 99 team, and basing it in Mooresville? What was his goal, do you think?
So Exide came to him after the Dover race and told him that they wanted him to put a car out there, sponsor a car for the next season, and he could he could pick the driver and the whole thing. So it was a great opportunity for the organization to expand with backing, with top notch backing from Exide. And he kind of told this story while we were at Barrett Jackson, which was pretty interesting. But the motivation was to expand. He had done uh, two car teams or multi car teams all the way back into his drag racing days. All his road racing stuff was a minimum of two cars. And so he understood how, if you could get double the sponsorship, you could do a lot more with the backing and, it just have a bigger, stronger, deeper organization. So, as you know, I guess he asked Ward um, to drive it, and Ward had just signed with Bill Davis or re-signed with Bill Davis or something or other, and he, I, you know, he told Jeff. He said, when Jeff said, "Well, I'll call him."
Yeah.
So it was really a great deal. Jeff, I'd known both Ward and Jeff from the Bush series, and I'd actually even helped Jeff with it. He was driving the 8 car the year before, Cup car, and for the Stavola brothers, and I actually got in his car at Rockingham and drove it and gave him some feedback on it. So we go way back before even we became teammates.
Right. Well, I think this, other than hiring you, I think this is the best decision Jack ever made is in NASCAR as far as starting this third team, as I think what we talk about today will show. But all this is happening in 1995, all these events. And I wanted to ask you, because Jeff Burton tells a funny story. Do you remember, initially there being tensions between, the two Liberty teams, the 6 team and the 16 team and the 99 team, because Jeff tells that funny story about going to the Christmas party. You're flying the airplane, and he's in the back with Steve Mill, and then Comstock, who's the crew chief of the 16 team, and they tell him that they're not helping him, and it's not about him. It's just like, this is because Jack's trying to piss us off.
Yes, there was. I remember vividly.
Do you remember that?
Well, I do. I remember it real well. So part of the reasoning for the shop to be in Liberty instead of Charlotte was to be able to keep our secrets in house better. In other words, the guys that work there couldn't just close their toolbox up and push it down the street a half a block to another team, and and all your secrets get out. So we were, with that team being in Mooresville, my team, our teams felt like that, everything that we were doing that somebody else didn't know about was going to get out. So that was part of the reasoning, and that dissipated over time. But yeah, initially it wasn't met with open arms, just like the 16 wasn't met with open arms. I did not like the idea, of adding a second team, especially after just winning one race in 1991. It just didn't feel like we were ready.
Yeah, so going into 1996, all three of the teams had some good runs that season, but there were no wins across all three teams. You know, what do you think happened there? I mean, why do you think you guys struggled to get into victory lane that year? And like I said, you guys had some good runs. I mean, Jeff Burton, even for briefly, he led the points for, after, I forgot, it was early in the season, but it was one race. But then he missed. I think it was North Wilkesboro.
I think he missed Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay. Yeah.
Atlanta. So it was early in the season, and he wasn't in the points yet. They didn't
Yeah.
work counting 96 points until after, like, right, I don't know, after
Okay.
Atlanta or something. So he missed. He missed the ride. He had me come over and drive his car because it wasn't fast, enough, and I drove it and couldn't help him any with it really. And he missed the race, and Jack comes up and says, "I'm so sorry. I'll take all the heat. I'll handle the sponsor. Don't worry about anything. It's all good." And and he said, "I didn't give you what you need." And Jeff said, "You gave me everything I asked for." He said, "Yeah, but I didn't give you what you need." that's my Jack Roush right there. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. But yeah, so as far as the six goes, we were fast enough to win a lot of races. It was a very frustrating year. It seemed like every race that we would be really good at, someone was just better. And
Yeah.
it was one of those years where we weren't consistently fast enough, to win a race. And on a good day, we didn't get lucky.
Well, even though you guys, all three teams kind of had a tough year that season, the next season in '97, I mean, you guys really came out swinging. I mean, you won 4 races. You were in contention for the championship all year long, and Jeff Burton won his first 3 Cup races, um, and he became the second driver to win a Cup race for Jack. Um, what do you remember about Jeff's first win? Do you have any remembrance from that?
Yeah, I do. I do. It was Texas, and I was leading the race. And on the restart, he was a lap down, and he was starting on the inside of me. And on the restart, because back then they lined up the lap cars on the inside row. He was in front. So we took off and he got ahead of me and we ran a few laps there and my motor blew up. So I headed for the airport and flew from Texas to Daytona, and I got out of the plane, and Arlene said, "Jeff Burton won the race." And so that's my memory of it. So I wasn't at the track, but obviously really happy for him. He brought so much to me and to the six car and to the team and the organization. Um, it turned out to be a genius move by Jack to do it differently than we were doing, things in Liberty, and it really made the whole organization a lot stronger.
Did it dawn on you at the time that he was, the second driver now to win a cup race for Roush Racing? I mean, did you think about that at the time, or?
No, it didn't even occur to me. I kind of
Yeah.
had blinders on.
Well, you talk about Jeff really bringing a lot to the six car, and that kind of segues into the next season. And my next question is, in 1998, uh, you guys moved, the six team moves to Mooresville into the shop with a 99 car. And then you have your best season ever. You win 7 races and have over 1,700 laps led in 1998. My question is how much did that move influence um, the success of that season? I mean, did the 99 team really uh, bring a lot to the six car and allow you guys to have such a successful season?
They had, that their organization was and shop was all established there in Mooresville, and Bobby Hudson was in charge of the surface plate, the body hanging, which was real important to Jeff and I both, because we thought we could pretty much handle the chassis stuff, but we had to have, really, really good people doing bodies and at the time wind tunneling and stuff like that. So the cars, so it was all new car builds for me. My Liberty and Troy Martin and those guys had always done the cars since the beginning, and now it was Bobby Hudson's surface plate and a whole new group that were furnishing cars to Jimmy Finnig and I, and they were built just like Jeff's. Ours were built together. If I had suggestions that might be better, they were incorporated into Jeff's cars. And if Jeff, had suggestions or they had anything, those things were incorporated in ours. So we had pretty much 6 sister cars. We were in the same shop. We had really good cooperation, between the 6 and the 99 car. And we were, elbow to elbows there in that shop. So it was a really, really good year. Good year for Jeff. Great year for us. Um, Everything just hit magic. That was the first year for the Taurus body, and we really hit a home run on the downforce side of things, and were able to really have a dominant year.
Was there anything that you recall that they did like drastically different there in that shop compared to how y'all were doing things in Liberty?
No, no, not really. You know, the cars. I mean, if you want to say the difference between 97 and 98, cars coming out of a different shop, there was no difference. It was the best stuff that we knew how to build. And, it's very, you cycle from not winning in
Yeah.
96 to being a championship contender in 97 to have the best season of my career in 98. Those were just a lot of that is when the stars line up. You have to run good all the time to get those wins. And we ran good a lot of the time in 96, but not all the time, and so the stars never lined up. But there was a lot of enthusiasm in that Mooresville shop with the six and 99. The six was basically 100% new team. I don't think maybe Dennis was still with us, the truck driver, uh, but it was Jimmy and 100% new people on the six car. So I don't recall anyone coming, from Liberty, and being on the team. I know that it was just a bunch of young guys that were
Yeah.
excited, and they were damn good too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sean Parker.
yeah, Sean, and so many of those guys. Somewhere along the way, Jeff Paxton, um, as well. I mean, just every guy that was on that car in '98 seemed to be young, fresh, new to me, and and ready to have a lot of success. That hadn't had the opportunity to work on a car that was that fast and that solid.
You've said before that that team that you had there in 98 and 99 was one of the best you ever had in your entire NASCAR career, right?
Yes, they were just all so good.
Yeah.
And the magic is in the attitude, and they were so excited. Um, it was similar to 2009 with those guys. That was an amazing, super quality, all people who had been there and done that before. But that enthusiasm makes a lot of difference. People don't believe that, but you hear chemistry talked about sometimes. It does somehow translate into performance, just the attitude of the team. And I'll give you an example, and I've told you this many times. There's a lot of times in the '80s when two great drivers weren't winning races, and you saw teams swap, and both was win races.
That's so crazy.
They just needed something to change, and new, attitude, new enthusiasm. And boy, '98 and '09 were two of the top years for enthusiasm level.
So you had your, career year in '98, and then the next season, Jeff Burton has his career year. So in '99, he won 6 races and he led over 1,000 laps. And so my question is to you again. I mean, do you think the success that you guys had on the six car translated some over to their success the following season?
I think that, well, I mean, he knew everything that we were doing, and of
Yeah.
course we knew everything that they were doing, but part of it is just how the stars line up. I've heard Jeff say that we kicked his ass in '98, moved in and kicked his ass. Well, it's fun to talk like that, but honestly, it's not really the case. And they did the same to us the next year in '99 for no,
Yeah.
explainable reason. It's just, there was a lot of Jack always, he hated it too, because Jack's such an engineer. He's all that black magic, you know.
Yeah.
He never went for all that. It always pissed him off. But I'm telling you, there's something about just enthusiasm, and momentum, and the stars lining up that makes that all happen. We still ran good in '99, but
Yeah.
Jeff had a career year.
Well, the thing is, I mean, to your point, I mean, if you watch the races from '98, I mean, yes, you won 7 races, but if you watch a lot of them, Jeff's running right up there with you, and it just a couple things are different. I mean, he might win more races, and the same is true with you in 1999. I mean, he won 6 races, but you're up at the front, most of the time, and it doesn't take much, and then you win more races than you did. So there's a lot of truth to that black magic. So going into 2000, that's Matt Kenseth first full time season in the 17 car. You guys had hired him earlier, but that's his first full season in Cup. So he scores his first win at the Coke 600 that year and becomes the third driver to win a Cup race for Roush Racing. Now, you played a role in making all that happen. I mean, can you tell us, about the process of discovering Matt and then, talking to Jack about hiring him?
Well, I think everybody knows that my foundation for my cup career was built in Wisconsin, and the Wisconsin racers had a lot to do with shaping, the racer that I was. And so I'm down there in NASCAR racing, and I'm reading about this Matt Kenseth winning here, winning there. I'm looking at the cars; they're not the same car. They're owned by different people, whatever. And I'm like, this kid knows his stuff. It remind me of myself. He knows in other words, he doesn't rely on Howie Leto, who was the greatest crew chief up there ever, to make his cars go fast. He knew how to do it. He knew how to make his cars go fast. And I was attracted to that always. So he and Robbie Reiser come for the Busch race at Talladega, and I meet him for the first time. And so after the drivers I met him at the drivers meeting. And so after the drivers meeting, we sit there on the bleachers and talk for about 30 minutes. And I just really liked him. I could tell, 100%, this is a dude that reminds me of a career, that I've had. He's a good dude, smart guy. It was just the right thing. So I went straight to the hauler to get dressed for the race, the Busch race, and Jack was there. And I said, Jack, I know you don't have a place for him, but you have to sign this guy. You've got to sign him. You've got to sign him. You have to. And, Jack never, I'm not going to say it, that Jack didn't always listen to what I said. And that was a big, bold move to sign him to a contract when he didn't have room, for him in the stable. So, but he did. And, Matt Kenseth never, ever, ever let me down. He was everything that I thought he was, and a great teammate and a great friend to me.
So the interesting thing to me too is, Matt, you, and Jeff. One of the things you guys all have in common is y'all are car guys, and y'all are also the first three that saw success there at Roush. I think that certainly Jack giving you guys the ability to determine more how your cars are set up and how they are. I think that definitely helped you guys, achieve success there. I mean, would you agree with that? I mean, I just, it's hard to me to believe, at least in the earlier years, that you could have put somebody that was just, like a Tim Richmond or somebody like that, that's a really good driver, but doesn't know much about cars. To me, it seemed like the early Roush drivers, they had to be good drivers, but they also had to know how to set up their car.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And it's really because, you know, uh, Jack let us determine our own fate. Robbie Reiser and Matt Kenseth, they were the architect of their cars. Jeff Burton, I've said over and over again, was a absolute master architect of his cars and team, and I had always had my finger on the pulse as well. I think um, some of the lack of super great performance from Johnny Benson or or Chad Little or Ted Musgrave, LePage, and especially Wally Dallenbach was that they didn't have that. They couldn't come in and say, put this in that car and then go drive it and then come in and say, make this change to it. Um, Nothing against they were all incredible drivers.
Yeah, they just needed a Ray Evernham or something.
Yes,
Yeah,
they needed someone, that could really uh, listen to them and
yeah.
and make magic. And we weren't able to give those guys that. And where Robbie Reiser was able, Robbie and Matt were able to do that. And Jack let them, I think it helped when Jeff really broke the ice because, uh, Jeff was successful. And so, okay, then what we've done with Mark is successful. What we were doing with Jeff is successful. We're going to let Matt and Robbie determine their, destiny here. And so that really worked. And then, you know, of course, then, we come along with some incredible drivers. Like when you put Kurt Busch in, even a decent race car, he's going to win. And the same thing with Biffle. I mean, he was so incredibly talented as well. So those guys were able to uh, do more because of the amazing talent. And of course, then Kurt winds up with Jimmy Finnegan, which was perfect combination. So
I'm glad you mentioned Kurt because that we're getting into 2001. So 2001 is Kurt's rookie season in the '97 car. He captures one pole, but other than that, he doesn't, run that good the rest of the season. And also, you and Matt Kenseth go winless and don't do that well either. It's kind of almost a repeat of 1996. When I was doing the notes for the show, I realized that. With that said, though, Jeff Burton, even though he didn't get off to a good start, he did win 2 races. He won the Coke 600 in Phoenix. But do you recall like any particular reason why all the Roush teams seemed to struggle that year? Because all you guys did.
somehow or another, we got behind somewhere. I don't know where we got behind, but or it was probably more than one area. We got a little bit behind, probably arrow wise, maybe possibly power wise. I don't know for sure. I don't remember exactly at that time, but and we had to have been off a little bit on our chassis stuff. We just as a group weren't making the speed that we needed to.
Well, then this is another repeat of '97. Then in 2002, you guys, come out swinging again. So you and Kurt switched teams in the offseason. So in 2002, you go in with Kurt's team, and Kurt goes in with your team. And he wins his first 4 Cup races with your old crew chief, Jimmy Finnick.
And my
And then,
old cars.
yeah, and your old cars. And so he becomes the 4th driver to win a Cup race for Roush Racing. And then Matt Kenseth, he wins 5 races. And then you win the Coke 600 and you're in contention for the championship that year. Oh, and by the way, with your Coke 600 win, that Roush Racing has now won 4 consecutive Coca-Cola 600s. So, although your career is starting to wane some, Roush Racing is becoming a powerhouse. It's obvious at this point. Do you recall what the energy was like at the organization around this time?
Well, energy, I recall our group, the energy was really good in 2002 because I had, all these young guys. This is when, we're now at 5 teams, and there's a lot of pressure to have all the cars built the same. And Matt Kenseth likes the opposite in aero than I do, and we go through a struggle there, um, because I don't like the arrow that Matt likes, and he doesn't like mine, and he's having success with his, and I try his, and I don't like it. I want mine, and so we struggle through that for a year or two there, where we're just not. The energy was good, and we ran good, and we really should have won the championship that year. Um, we broke one too many times. I
Yeah.
mean, we were in position to win it, and I thought it was we just couldn't fall out, and from here on, and sure enough, we fell out, and that cost us. But yeah, I mean, we just then I don't know. I don't remember '03. I don't remember a whole lot about that.
Well, 2003 was Greg Biffle's rookie season in the 16 car, and he picked up his first career win at the Pepsi 400 at Daytona. And so that made him the fifth driver to win a race for Roush Racing. So he'd go on to have a ton of success in that 16 car. My question is, that car had been around since 1992. What did Greg bring to that car that turned it into a winning car?
You know, his just him.
Just him.
Yeah, he sat in the seat. He was on the level of Kurt Busch. He and Doug Rickard, you know, had a championship all the way back in whatever it was, 1979 or 80, whatever it was with Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah, 80.
80, yeah. But after that, not such great success. Doug was absolutely spectacular at getting Greg what Greg needed, what he wanted in his car. I watched it firsthand, in amazement, trying to gather any speed out of it that I could. But Doug was just absolutely fabulous at getting Greg what he needed. And they just, they just won him a bunch of races, and especially intermediates, where I think Greg's driving talent could really shine. And Doug getting that left front, they were always preaching, you got to get that left front down. I'm over here trying, but I'm not getting it like that. They were stout.
So in '03 and '04, Roush Racing wins back to back Cup Series championships with Matt Kenseth and Kurt Busch. So obviously, this was the peak of Roush Racing as an organization. Do you have any particular memories from these 2 years? I mean, the team had come a long way from, just a handful of employees and a single car team in 1998, or excuse me, 1988 in Liberty. And now, I mean, it's on top of the NASCAR world.
Yeah, by this point, I'm not young by any means.
Yeah.
And so, I'm starting to face the challenge of not being, the fastest wheelman, um, in the shop. Um, and so with Matt winning that championship, and I co-owned that car. I got ownership in it when Jack set it up. So I had a lot of pride because I felt like I had a hand by bringing Matt to it and bringing a cup championship to that organization. I know you can see it all over Jack's face, and I felt it a lot that he was sad that it wasn't me that brought him the first one. But dude, we got it. I wanted it for Matt. I wanted it for Jack. I wanted it for the organization, and I was happy. I didn't run good enough to win it, and and didn't from there on going forward in the six car. I didn't run good enough to be a contender for one. We tried hard. Jack tried everything he had to get me, you know, whatever he could to put me in a position to do it. But we could run good, but we have somebody's. It's hard to win those championships when you've got 36 races, and every single race, every single position, every single point matters.
Yeah, well, I would say too, to add on to that, I mean, particularly when you're now into your 40s and you're really starting to get past your prime level as a driver. And, it's kind of frustrating because Roush Racing, like your peaks were at two different times. Your peak when they first hired you.
Yeah.
But at that time, they had so many mechanical failures, and all these different issues all these bugs that they had to get worked out. And then once they did, you're, past your prime, and so it's kind of a frustrating deal. But, how was it seeing Kurt Busch win his championship in '04 and Jimmy Finnick getting his championship?
Well, my relationship with Jimmy Finnick was extremely warm. That we worked. He was my crew chief in ASA in '85 and '86. We were side by side, every day and every night. I worked in the shop with him and his brother uh, Jeffrey every day, and went racing, every night. And so I had a good relationship with him. He had the opportunity at the end of '86 to Bobby Allison wanted him to come and crew chief a cup car, and I was thrilled for him. And I was leaving, ASA as well to go bush racing with Lawmaster and David Levendahl. So I was happy for Jimmy, and I was also happy that when we made the swap, Kurt starts winning races. Good on Jimmy. It makes it look like it was a good move. And by the way, we won the 600 with our new little group. But to see Jimmy get that championship means more than I can describe. Um, I love Jimmy. Uh, Man, we spent a lot of long days and a lot of long nights and a few cases of Miller. Uh, we've been in the trenches together. When he came in '97, we had a revival at the six car when he came crew chief. That um, I think about a third of my cup wins
Yeah.
were him at the helm on top of the box, which is actually amazing. So for him to get that championship was huge. Then to get a Daytona 500, I mean, this guy, well, he got Daytona 500 with Bobby, so he's got I don't know how many Daytona 500 wins he's got as crew chief. So um, good on him.